Hello dear students, I am Murli Manohar, Assistant Professor in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Sagar Institute of Science and Technology, Bhopal, and I will be teaching you the subject EX702, that is Power Electronics Application to Power System. Okay, so this is the departmental elective subject. So before coming to the introduction, you would like to see the scheme and syllabus of this subject. So as per the RGPB scheme for the EX 7th SEM, this PEAPS, that is Power Electronics Application to Power System, subject with subject code EX702 is the departmental elective subject. Okay, and there is no practical in this, it is completely theoretical. So moving on to the syllabus of this PEAPS, actually we have to study the steady state and dynamic problems in the AC systems, the fact devices. In the second unit we have to study the modeling and analysis of FACTS controller, the controller strategy, power quality problems. In the third unit we have to study the harmonics, their modeling, propagation, resonances, harmonic power flow, the mitigation techniques, the filters, sags, swells, flickering of voltage, and other power quality problems. And in the fourth unit we have to study the active power controllers, that is dynamic, static, synchronous controllers, the STATCOMs, voltage regulators, and in the last unit we have to study the energy storage systems, the structure of the power storage devices, storage hydroelectricity, compressed air energy storage systems, flywheels, battery storage, etc. Okay, so before starting our first topic, I would like to give you the brief overview, but before that I would like to suggest two reference books for this if you have to study this subject. So however, the list of 4 books you can see here, but the first one, that is NG Hingorani, Understanding Facts, and HVDC Power Transmission Systems by KR Padiyar, would be, I think, more helpful for you to understand this subject. So you can refer these 2 books. So with starting with the introduction of the subject, I would like to remind you some definitions which you might have studied in the earlier semester related to power system stability. Okay, so what is stability? The question arises that what is stability of a system? So the stability of a system refers to the ability of the system to return back to its steady state when subjected to a disturbance. Okay, so let me start this with the history. The first electric power system was the DC system, which was built by Edison in 1882. So we have started this power system journey from the DC system. Previously we did not have the AC system. We started from the DC system in 1882, and then the subsequent power systems were constructed in the late 19th century, and that all were DC systems. So the AC systems came into picture in the 20th century, and the AC systems were found superior as the AC machines were cheaper than the DC counterparts. Also, we were able to transform the voltage, because you know that the transformation of voltage, that is stepping up and stepping down of the voltage, is quite easier in AC through the transformer. So that was also an associated advantage with AC. And the early stability problems of AC systems were experienced around in 1920, but that was rectified, that was solved by using generator damper windings and by the use of turbine type prime movers. Okay, so now coming to the stability issue. So what is the stability? The stability of a system refers to the ability of system to return back to its steady state when subjected to a disturbance. Okay, so we know that the power is generated by the synchronous generators, and that need to be operated in synchronism with the rest of the system. Okay, so all the generators which are connected to the grid, they all run in synchronism. Okay, so what is the meaning of synchronism? You might have studied, but I would like to remind you that the generator is said to be synchronized with the bus when, let's say, two generators, they are said to be synchronized when both of them have the same frequency, voltage and phase sequence. So these three are the mandatory criteria to ensure synchronism. Okay, so on that basis, the power system stability is categorized into three types, and that is steady state, transient state and dynamic stability. Okay, so as you can see in this diagram, in the flow chart, the power system stability can be categorized into these three states. That is, one is steady state stability, another is transient stability, and the third one is dynamic stability. Okay, so let me discuss three types one by one. So first one, that is steady state stability. This steady state stability studies are restricted to small and gradual changes in the system operating conditions. Now, how do we come across this small and gradual change in the system? Actually, we concentrate on restricting the bus voltages close to their normal values. Okay, and at the same time we also ensure that the phase angles between the two buses are not too large, means there must not be a large difference in the phase angles. We also must check for the overloading of the power equipment and transmission lines, and these checks are usually done by the power flow studies. Okay, so using this power flow studies, we can have the check on all these things, that is whether the phase angles, the difference between the phase angle between two buses are not too large, there is no issue of overloading of the equipment and transmission lines. So these are the things which we can take care of by using the power flow studies. Okay, so even a small fluctuation in this will cause the gradual change or disturbance in the system. So the steady state stability studies are restricted to this small disturbances or changes in the operating conditions. Okay, now what is transient stability? So transient stability involves the study of the power system following a major disturbance. Okay, so unlike steady state stability, which is concerned with the small and gradual change or disturbance, this transient stability involves major disturbances. Okay, so how do we come across this major disturbance? So large disturbances are basically caused in the situations such as the synchronous alternator or the machine's load angle changes due to sudden acceleration of the rotor shaft. Okay, So during the conditions of the sudden acceleration of the rotor shaft, the synchronous alternator's load angle changes. Okay. So the objective of this transient stability study is to ascertain whether the load angle returns to a steady value following the clearance of the disturbance. Okay. Means, let's say if there is a large disturbance in the system, okay, and so obviously it comes under the transient stability. Okay. Now if that disturbance is settled, then how quickly the load angle is again maintained. Okay. So that study comes under the transient stability. Okay. And the third one, the ability of a power system to maintain stability under continuous small disturbances is investigated under the name of dynamic stability or small signal stability. Okay. So these are small disturbances, okay, which occur due to the fluctuations in the load and generation levels. Okay, if there is some fluctuation in the load at the load side or the generation side, then such stability issues may occur. Okay, so because in the interconnected system, okay, this random variations can lead to catastrophic failures or large failures. Okay, so these three stability issues are very important from the viewpoint of a stable system. Now coming to the compensation, what is compensation in the power transmission system and why do we need that? What is the need of compensation? So I'd like to discuss some points and will try to make you understand what is the requirement of the compensation to the power transmission system. So the two major problems that the modern power system are facing are the voltage and angle stabilities. Okay. So this voltage and angle stability are the two major problems that we need to check. Also, the power network is mostly reactive because we know that the transmission lines, they have the two components, resistance and inductance. So we can tell it as RL load. So it is reactive in nature. The synchronous generator usually generates active power that is specified by the mechanical power input. Okay. So in case of the thermal power plant, what is the mechanical power input? That is the steam. Okay. Steam produced in the boiler. Okay. So that is the mechanical power input. That is the turbine, the steam turbines. They act as a prime mover for the generator, the synchronous generator. So this active power is specified by the mechanical power input. Okay. And reactive power supplied by the generator is dictated by the network and load requirements. Okay. So again, this active power is decided by the mechanical power input. It depends upon the mechanical input, and the reactive power supplied by the generator depends on the network and the load requirements. Okay. So the generator usually does not have any control over it. Okay. Because it we do not have any control over the load. Okay. So however, the lack of reactive power can cause voltage collapse in the system. So it is a serious issue. Okay. So the reactive power balance is very much required for the power system to be stable, or to have the stable operation of the power system. This reactive power balance or reactive power control is very much required. Okay. So it is therefore important to supply or absorb excess reactive power to or from the network. Okay. So if it is required to supply the reactive power, If it is falling short of it, then we should have the mechanism to supply it, and if the reactive power generated is more than required, then we should have the facility to absorb the excess reactive power. So both ways we will have to manage the network. Okay, this whole power system network has to be managed in both the ways, that if it is deficient we need to supply it, and if it is generating excess reactive power we need to absorb it. Okay, so we need to have the complete control over the system to either supply it or absorb it as per the conditions. Okay, so the shunt compensation is one possible approach of providing this reactive power support. So from here this shunt and series compensation comes into picture. Means what is this compensation, why do we need this in the power transmission system, that comes into picture from here. Okay, since this reactive power balance is very much required in the power system network to avoid the voltage collapse. Okay, if the voltage will collapse, obviously there will be a blackout. Okay, and that we have also encountered in the past, not only in India but in also in the US and European countries, that whenever we are unable to manage the health of the power system network, then such catastrophic failures occur. Okay, so we have numerous disasters in the power system networks around the globe. Okay, so why such situations occur? Okay, because this we know that this power network is really reactive. Okay, so we need to have the control over this reactive power. Now the shunt compensation is one possible approach of providing reactive power support. Okay, fine. So while the device is connected in parallel with the transmission line, that is called shunt compensator, and that mechanism is called shunt compensation. And if the device is connected in series with the transmission line, that is called the series compensation, or the device is called series compensators. Okay, why do we call it a compensator? Okay, so that is a question, why it is called a compensator. So compensation means what? Compensation means what? You are giving something to fulfill that deficiency or requirement, that is compensation. So here also we are compensating for the reactive power. Okay, so we are compensating for the reactive power, that is whether it has to be supplied or to be absorbed. So that is the basis of providing the compensation. Okay, so the compensation of power system, a device that is connected in parallel, I already told you that a device that is connected in parallel to transmission line is called the shunt compensator, and a device that is connected in series with the transmission line is called a series compensator. Okay, so these are referred to as compensators since they compensate for the reactive power in the AC system. Fine. So we shall assume that the shunt compensator is always connected at the midpoint of the transmission system. It is very important to note the point of connection. Okay, so the shunt compensator is always connected at the midpoint of the transmission system, while the series compensators, they can be connected at any point in the line. Okay, so what is the purpose of doing such connections? So such connection improves the first one is the voltage profile. Okay, so what is the meaning of saying voltage profile? It has, the voltage profile has to be maintained constant. Okay, so there must not be any more fluctuations in the voltage, because for the healthy system we need to have the proper voltage profile. Okay, the power angle characteristics. So this power angle characteristics also should be maintained, the stability margin, okay, and damping to the power oscillations. Okay, so for that we use the static VAR compensators. Okay, and static VAR compensator is the first generation shunt compensator. Okay, and in the beginning it was used for the load compensation to provide that VAR support, VAR support, volt ampere reactive for the large industrial loads and for flicker mitigation. Okay, but with the advancement of the semiconductor technology, the static VAR compensators started appearing in the transmission system in early 1970s, we can say, and today a large number of static VAR compensators are connected to the existing transmission systems all over the world. Okay, so this SVC or static VAR compensator, in short we can say SVC. This SVC is constructed using the thyristor technology. Okay, and it does not have the gate turn off capability. Fine. So now with the advancement in this power electronic technology, we came across the improved compensators. Okay, so in that way the second generation of the shunt compensation was was achieved by a new compensating device, and that is called a static compensator or STATCOM. Okay, so the STATCOM was driven from the DC storage capacitor, and the SVS is connected to the AC system, that is synchronous voltage source is connected to the AC system bus through an interface transformer, and the transformer steps the AC system voltage down such that the voltage rating of the SVS switches are within the specified limit. Okay, so this is the introduction part. I will discuss each and every compensator in detail. This is the only you can say it is the history of these compensating devices. Okay, then TCSC, thyristor control series compensator, came into picture, and that is a thyristor based series compensator which connects a thyristor control reactor in parallel with the fixed capacitor, and by changing the firing angle of the antipile thyristors, they are connected in series with the reactor in TCR. Okay, and the fundamental frequency, the inductive reactance of the TCR can be changed. Okay, so these are the subsequent or consecutive, you can say, advancements in the compensation devices. Okay, so we will discuss each and every compensating devices in detail, the thyristor based devices, the advancements, what kind of advancements were done, which kind of problem the one type of compensator was facing, and that was rectified in the advanced compensator. So that we will discuss in detail. So this was the a short introduction session, that why do we need to have a compensator in our power system network, and what are the things that we have to study under this subject, that is power electronics application to power system